Hey guys, welcome back. All of my explorers out there, we are on lesson 9 today for habitat destruction and endangered species. So before we get started, I want to go over some vocabulary terms that you're going to see throughout our lesson. The first word is destroy. Destroy. Destroy means to completely ruin something. An example of destroy is it would destroy the forest if someone cut down all the trees. Destroy. Our next word, endanger. Endanger. Endanger means to put in dangers or harm's way, to create a dangerous situation. Example, a forest fire would endanger all of the animals that make the forest their home. Endanger. Endangered species. Endangered species. Species present in such small numbers that in the future it may no longer exist. Example, the bald eagle used to be an endangered species because there were very few alive and people were destroying their habitat. Endangered species. And our last word is extinction. Extinction. The end of a species because of the death of all its members. Example, dinosaurs once lived on Earth but faced extinction because of changes to their habitat. Extinction. Okay. So what does it mean if an animal or a plant is adapted to its habitat? What does that mean? Well, adapted means that they have to change to fit in to their environment so they can survive. All right? And it takes plants and animals a long time to adapt to their environment. Can you name some animals or plants that have adapted to their environment? The polar bear, because it's got those 2 layers of fur and that extra layer of blubber under there, and they have fur on their paws to help them walk and keep their feet warm. What about a whale, blue whale? It has all that blubber on its body so it can swim in the cold oceans. What about a walrus? It has those tusks grown out so it can use them to climb up on the ice with. And I'm sure there are a lot more that we could name in doing so because we've learned about a lot of different animals. Our next read aloud, though, is what happens to living things when their habitats change. So what do you think would happen to an animal or a plant if its surroundings changed? Imagine, for example, what would happen if it got hot in the Arctic and all the snow and ice melted? That wouldn't be good, would it? No, it wouldn't. Think about the muskox that lives up there in the Arctic and that heavy fur coat. What would happen to him in that hot weather? He would die, wouldn't he, because of all that heat being kept into his body. And what about the Arctic hare's white coat? Could he still blend in then? No, possibly not. Because the Arctic hare's white coat keeps him blended in and camouflage that the predators can't find him. But now he's going to stand out like a sore thumb, and so they'll see him. What about walruses and seals? All that blubber on their body. They'll have all that extra heat, wouldn't they? Blubber, heavy fur, and camouflage are all the ways the Arctic animals have adapted to cold weather. Could any of these adaptations make to live in the new hot weather? Could, couldn't it? Because animals would see if you weren't camouflaged, and the fur and blubber would just make you really hot and possibly kill you. Okay, so today what we're going to do is we're going to listen carefully to find out how habitats change has affected the bald eagle. So I'm going to share my screen with you. So give me a second. Okay, let me put in present mode. There we go. All right. Habitat destruction and endangered species. Well, there's our little friend Rattenborough. Rattenborough here delivering the final installment of our exciting habitats adventure. We've traveled all around the world looking at some of the different habitats where plants and animals live. And a lot of those habitats, such as the Arctic and the Sonoran Desert, have climates to which you and I would have a tough time adapting. Remember that climate means the kind of weather a place normally has. As we've seen, however, there are many different living things in each habitat we have visited. Because some living things are so well adapted to the specific conditions of their specific habitats, any large change in their surroundings could make it hard for them to survive. Just think what would happen if it got even a little colder in the desert. Some of those animals who are so good at keeping cool wouldn't know how to stay warm. Or what if it stopped raining in the rainforest? What would happen to all those plants that need lots of water? Or what if something happened to disrupt the food chain of a certain animal? If that animal relied on a certain type of plant or animal to eat, and that food source was taken out of the habitat, that animal would no longer have food it needs to survive. Sometimes habitats change because the temperature or the weather changes, but unfortunately, people often affect habitats as well. Whether they realize it or not, people can make it very difficult for plants and animals to survive. From cutting down trees to starting forest fires to dumping dangerous waste and chemicals into our rivers, people's actions can endanger lots of species of plants and animals. To endanger plants and animals means to put them in danger's way. So people's actions can harm or even kill lots of plants and animals. Sometimes people's actions destroy entire habitats. Destroy means to ruin or break it. For example, someone walking in a forest might light a match and drop it, and then the whole forest might burn. Here, the word match means a thin piece of wood with a special tip that produces fire. The word match can also refer to a contest between two or more players or teams. Even if they were not harmed by the fire itself, many animals that used to live in trees would no longer have a place to live. When they lose their homes, animals find it much harder to continue to live in a particular habitat. If they can't find new places to live, the animals will not survive. And after a while, there will be fewer and fewer of these kinds of animals alive in the wild. When that happens, we say that they have become an endangered species. A species is a group of living things that are similar. So an endangered species is a group of living things that could die out completely. We say these species are endangered for a very good reason. They are in danger of extinction, and extinction means dying out forever. An animal or plant that is extinct has died out and does not exist anywhere in the world anymore. I'm on a mission to tell you about one animal that can teach us a lot about endangered species and how to save them. I have come here to Washington State in the northwestern part of the United States to show you an amazing bird called a bald eagle. Look up at that tree there, and you will see one of these eagles perched on the very top branch. You may recognize the bald eagle because it is one of the national symbols of our country. Drawings of the eagle appear as a symbol on American money and in many other places. Believe it or not, the bald eagle was almost extinct in the United States several years ago. If that had happened, there would be no bald eagles still living. So we're grateful to be able to spot this bald eagle today. Bald eagles are scavengers, but they also eat rats and other small animals, so I'd better stay out of the way. So remember what a scavenger is? Scavengers eat the leftovers. I think that the bald eagle looks very grand, don't you? It is covered with dark brown feathers and its head and tail are both white. Bald eagles are some of the largest birds living in this country. They can grow up to 3 feet tall, which is almost as tall as a first grader. Wow, this one has just taken off into the air and you can see its huge wings. In fact, their wings can spread to about 8 feet in length. While this eagle is flying around, let me tell you more about this special bird. There used to be thousands of bald eagles in the United States, but farmers started to hunt them because they thought the eagle was killing their farm animals. Then later people started to cut down trees in which the eagles built their nest to make their nest and to make way for roads, houses, and shopping malls. Now, do you think that caused problems when people cut down trees that the eagles used to build their nest in? Yep, because they didn't have any other place to build their nest, did they? With fewer places for them to make their homes, eagles found it harder and harder to survive. Then they started to die out. Soon, there weren't very many bald eagles left in the whole United States. People started to notice that there were fewer and fewer bald eagles, and they decided to find out why. Scientists began to study the eagles, and they discovered two things. The first was that a lot of eagles didn't have enough room to build their nest. Eagles don't like to live in the same area as other eagles, so they build their nests far away from each other. They like places that are peaceful and are huge, strong trees that can hold nests big enough for an adult and their babies to live. The scientists discovered that eagles didn't have enough room in the areas where they had been living because people were chopping down trees in order to build more roads and buildings. People were destroying the bald eagle's habitat. Now remember, what's a habitat? It's a place where you can live with shelter, and it has your food and it has your water. You have to have those three things to have a habitat: food, water, and shelter. The other thing that scientists found out that something bad was getting into the bald eagle's food supply. Farmers sometimes use chemicals to keep bugs eating their crops. One chemical, though, made the eggs that the eagles laid much thinner and easier to break. Because of this, many eagles' eggs were breaking before they could hatch. No one knew before then that the chemical was hurting the eagles, but it was. Luckily, the scientists found out which chemical was harming the eagles' eggs, and using the scientists' information, the United States government made laws to protect the bald eagle and its habitat so the eagle's food no longer contained that harmful chemical. And thanks to these laws, more eagles were born and the numbers of eagles started to rise again. Now, bald eagles have made an amazing comeback, but people must always be careful to protect their habitat. This bald eagle has returned to its nest up in that tree. Maybe it has some chicks up there that it needs to feed, or maybe it's just trying to keep warm. It is pretty chilly. And speaking of returning to the nest, I'm afraid it's time for me to go home too. I've really enjoyed our trip around the world's habitat, and I hope that you have too. Mrs. Rattenborough and my kids miss me, and to tell you the truth, it's been a dangerous expedition for me. I'll be glad to get out of danger and into the safety of my lovely home under the steps. Home, sweet home. Or maybe I should say, habitat, sweet habitat. Okay. All right. So what did you think of that? It was very interesting, wasn't it? All right. So what is an endangered species? I think it's a species that could die out because there's not that many living. It's not extinct yet, because what's extinct mean? Extinct means that it's dead, that it's no longer around. We can't find it anywhere. Why changes in an animal's habitat make it hard for them to survive? Well, if we think about that, animals are used to their environment that they live in, that it's hard for them to make changes. Think about when you're doing things and you like the way things go, and then you add something else to that. It's kind of hard to get used to doing something new, isn't it? So we have hard times too adjusting to new things. What can cause a habitat to change? People can change a habitat. Weather can change a habitat. Temperature can change a habitat. Good. So how do people affect habitats? What do people do? Well, they're building cities and roads. They're cutting down trees to make homes. Sometimes they light fires to burn brush, and then that takes over and we have forest fires. So that can affect habitats too. Do you think it's important to protect animals' habitats? I think so. What do you think? All right, guys, that's the end of our lesson today. I hope you enjoyed it. The next time we meet up, we will be doing another set of lessons. So enjoy. Until next time.